Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to explain a movie called The Breadwinner. Get comfortable. This movie tells the story of an Afghani girl trying to provide for her family and rescue her father from prison when he is wrongfully arrested. The cruelty of Afghani women by Taliban thugs proves to be her greatest challenge, yet as she is forced to look like a boy. The film begins in Afghanistan, in Kabul, where a girl, Parvana, and her father sell some of their possessions. Parvana is unhappy that her father is about to sell a dress she likes. She has never worn it and wishes they didn't have to sell it. Her father tells her she has nowhere to wear the dress, discouraging her hesitation from selling the dress. Her father tells her the story of Ariana, a land surrounded by warring nations which had been the center of many wars between empires and from which borders were defined and redefined over thousands of years. Many mighty rulers that fought in these wars included Cyrus the Great of Persia, Alexander the Great of Macedon, and many other great rulers and empires. Nurullah reveals that Ariana was peaceful until a coup d'état, followed by an invasion and a civil war that left many seeking men to restore order. Over time, laws were enforced, including the Sharia law that stated women who drew attention to themselves would be punished according to the statutes of the law. In the present day, Parvana is still unhappy about the dress, and her father tells her to remind him of the story of their nomadic ancestors. She hesitantly narrates the story, but before she can continue, she is interrupted by a stray dog. She yells at the dog, drawing the attention of two men who scold her for drawing attention to herself. Nurullah explains that Parvana meant no harm. The men insist she should be at, and he explains that he is disabled and needs Parvana's help in the market. The two men become aggressive toward the father and child. It is soon revealed that one of the men, Idris, was once Nurullah's student. He reveals that he has joined the Taliban and that Nurullah's teachings were pointless. Idris tells him that he fights against enemies of Islam, and Nurullah jokes that if he were an enemy of Islam, his amputated leg, which he lost in the Soviet-Afghan War, served as his punishment. Idris loses his temper and tells him Parvana is of marriageable age. He says he wants to marry her, but Nurullah refuses and tells him she is already betrothed to someone else. Idris argues that she could not reveal herself in public since she would soon be married, but Nurullah instead argues that Idris should stop looking at her. Idris fumes and threatens to kill Nurullah before his partner drags him away. The terrified Parvana watches as Nurullah and Idris argue. Soon after, Nurullah and Parvana head home, but Idris secretly spies on them and overhears Nurullah assuring Parvana that she isn't betrothed to anyone. At home, Nurullah and Parvana live with Mama Jan and their children, Soraya and an infant boy named Zaki. Nurullah tells Mama Jan that Parvana thinks she is too old for stories, and she tells Parvana not to be in haste to grow up. Soon after, the family shares a meal. Soraya and Parvana don't get along and get into an argument just before a group of armed men led by Idris barge in. Idris accuses Nurullah of being an enemy of Islam and says he is teaching the women in the house to read, which is against their laws. Nurullah is arrested and taken away. The next morning, Mama Jan plans to free Nurullah and orders Parvana to accompany her. Parvana hesitates as she is afraid. Mama Jan believes that as long as they do not draw attention to themselves, they will be safe. She tells Soraya to write a letter to the governor to protest the release of Nurullah. Shortly after, the duo set out, but they are ambushed by a group of Taliban men who scold Mama Jan for trying to save her husband. She is beaten and advised to return home while Parvana chases after the ripped picture of her father. Mama Jan asks Parvana to take her home after the incident. At home, Soraya is surprised to see them return and realizes Mama Jan is badly injured. When Parvana is asked to fetch water, she witnesses a boy being chased by a group of grown men but refuses to tell the men where the boy went. She runs off, dropping her scarf. She returns with only a half-full bucket of water, annoying Soraya. Zaki cries, and Soraya tells Parvana to cheer him up with a story. She tells him a story of a boy on a quest to retrieve his village's seeds from the evil Elephant King. Mama Jan soon wakes up, and they share the small portion of food left. Parvana offers to go to the market. At the market sellers refuse to serve Parvana since she is a child. Suddenly, the men from earlier spot her and chase after her, causing her to wound herself and drops her bag. That night, Soraya and Parvana realize they have run out of food and will starve soon. Soraya suggests writing a letter to distant relatives, but Parvana discourages her since they've never met. Parvana cuts her hair short that morning until she looks like a boy. She then wears the cloth of her deceased elder brother, Suleiman, who died years ago. Soraya encourages her, and she leaves for the market, returning with food. At the market, Parvana runs into a former classmate, Shazia, a girl disguised as a boy named Deliwar, who immediately recognizes her and suggests that she change her name to that of a boy. Parvana cheerfully returns home, and everyone is happy. Zaki wants her to continue her story later that night. The next morning, Parvana suggests that since she now looks like a boy, they can free her father, but Mama Jan insists that it is unsafe, and Soraya scolds her when she continues to argue. She leaves the house angrily and witnesses a mother and her child being brutalized by Taliban men. Parvana is not happy and walks away. She runs into Deliwar again and tells him about the incident, wishing she had intervened. Deliwar tells her she would have been whipped, too, since she is a girl. She then chooses the name Adish, which means fire. Deliwar tells her she can go anywhere as a boy. The duo then sneaks around the city in search of food. However, Parvana is still worried about her father, and Deliwar tells her the only way to see her father is to bribe the correctional officers with lots of money. Parvana then decides to hawk as her father did. A man named Razak approaches and asks about her father. She lies that Nurullah is her uncle. He then asks her to read him a letter informing him about the death of his sister due to a landmine on her way to a wedding. Razak is heartbroken and leaves. Parvana returns home that day with some money. She even buys a big candy for Zaki. Unknown to her, her mother has written a letter to her cousin offering Soraya in marriage to his son, Ajmal, so that he can take them out of Kabul. Parvana delivers the letter and continues hawking. She eventually sells her dress to a customer and his wife. Soon after, Deliwar approaches and tells Parvana she has enough money to bribe a guard. She also reveals that she is saving money to escape her abusive father. Later that day, Parvana travels to the prison to see her father and offers to bribe the guard, but he chases her away. Parvana returns home sad, but she isn't giving up. Soon after, she met with Deliwar, who assumed her bribe might have insulted the guard. She suggested bribing the guard with more money next time. Deliwar then suggests doing manual labor in exchange for money. The duo load a truck for small pay, and Deliwar shares her dream of going to the sea. The two girls resolve that they need to make more money. That evening, Arizaku comes by, pays Parvana for her earlier service, and learns she can write too. That night, Parvana continues her story. The brave boy runs into an older woman who tells him he needs 3 things to defeat the Elephant King: something that shines, something that soothes, and something that ensnares. On the way, he runs into a weary older woman and helps her milk her cow. In exchange for his kindness, she gives him a glowing mirror. Parvana promises to join Deliwar at sea the next day when she rescues her father. Suddenly, they notice jets flying over them. Razak comes to Parvana's shop to learn to read. As he leaves, Parvana reveals that Nurullah is in prison, and Razak tells her to ask Roshan, his cousin, when she returns to the prison. He tells her Roshan will help her, and she thanks him. Parvana and Deliwar continue to do manual labor jobs for money and are discovered by Idris as his uncle employs them. He attacks them, and Parvana retaliates, angering him into chasing them. However, he is drafted into war, never to be seen again. Parvana continues her story. The boy discovers a weary horse and feeds it with stolen hay, but the owner throws the boy into a pit, where he discovers emeralds. When the horse frees him, he gives the emeralds to the owner, who requests he hands them over to him in exchange for food, but the greedy owner traps him in a snare. The boy leaves with a snare. Now, he has 2 items needed to defeat the Elephant King. Deliwar tells Parvana to name her character, and she names him Suleiman, after her brother. When Parvana returns home, her mother reveals to her that her cousin has accepted her proposal, and someone has been sent to pick them up. Parvana begs her mother to allow her to visit the prison and inform Nurullah where they are going. She agrees, and the next morning, Parvana bids her final farewell to Deliwar. Deliwar is heartbroken when she hears Parvana is leaving Kabul. She gives her all her savings and refuses when Parvana asks her to accompany her. Parvana promises to see her in 20 years and leaves for prison. In the meantime, the messenger from Ajmal arrives and Mama Jan is hesitant to go since Parvana is not back. Parvana runs into Razak in prison as Roshan has been enlisted to fight in the war. He reveals that he has been ordered to execute men unfit to fight, but when Parvana reveals she is the daughter of Nurullah, he offers to help her. Meanwhile, Mama Jan tells the messenger she cannot leave without her daughter, and he is forced to abandon her in the desert as the war begins. She tells Soraya to run away and furiously challenges the messenger. A terrified Pravana watches as the weak prisoners are executed and summons her courage to complete the story. The boy uses the objects to defeat the jaguars and tells how Suleiman died to soothe the Elephant King. Razaku is shot in the shoulder while rescuing Nurullah. It is revealed that Suleiman died after picking a toy on the street, which was a landmine. The Elephant King is soothed, and Razaku returns with the weak Nurullah. Pravana tearfully thanks him and leaves with her father. Mama Jan reunites with Soraya and Zaki. Nurullah and Pravana continue the story they tell each other at the film's start. That was all from the video. Please, give us a suggestion of movies you want us to upload next. Thank you for watching and being part of our family. Just to let you know, we are posting videos every day for you. Please subscribe to give us more motivation, and you will not miss our daily video.